peaceful black family moves into a quiet, well-kept neighborhood, hoping for a fresh start, unaware that the HOA president, Karen, a woman known for her controlling attitude and history of targeting newcomers she disapproves of, has already taken notice of them before they even finish unpacking. The family arrives with excitement, carrying boxes, greeting neighbors warmly, and setting up their new home with love and pride. Their children explore the backyard, the parents arrange furniture, and everything feels like the beginning of a better life. But behind her blinds, Karen watches them with narrowed eyes, convinced that new people always cause problems, and quickly forms an opinion based not on their behavior, but on her own prejudices. She begins writing in her little HOA notebook, documenting imaginary issues from the moment they arrive. She complains internally about their moving truck blocking the street for a few hours, even though every neighbor has done the same. She frowns at the kids laughing in the yard, labeling it disturbance. She even times how long the family's car stays parked in their driveway while they unload, treating normal activities as suspicious. What the family doesn't know is that Karen has held HOA power for years, using rules selectively, bending them to fit her personal biases, and pushing out families she didn't like. As the family continues settling in, happily unaware, Karen is already preparing her first official complaint, planning to monitor them closely and create problems where none exist. Karen wastes no time beginning her passive-aggressive harassment campaign, starting with small, fabricated HOA violations meant to intimidate the family into feeling unwelcome. She sends them a notice claiming their lawn is improperly maintained, even though they moved in only 2 days earlier and the grass is perfectly normal. When the family ignores the baseless accusation, assuming it was a clerical mistake, Karen escalates by sending another notice accusing them of excessive noise, despite the fact that the neighborhood has been quiet and their children have barely stepped outside. The family grows confused, wondering why they're receiving warnings without having broken any rules, but they remain polite, responding with calm inquiries asking for clarification. Karen, irritated that they're not reacting with fear or submission, begins patrolling past their home more frequently, crossing her arms, taking photos, and pretending to measure the distance of their trash bins from the curb, anything that could be twisted into a violation. She even approaches nearby neighbors, trying to stir doubt by suggesting the new family is already causing issues, although the neighbors who have spoken to them know it isn't true. Still unsatisfied, Karen invents another complaint, this time alleging the family has unauthorized visitors, pointing to the relatives who helped them move in. She files these complaints with the HOA board, stacking them rapidly in hopes of building a false pattern of uncooperative behavior. The family begins to sense something is off. Every notice feels targeted, exaggerated, or simply untrue, but they remain unaware that Karen's motives run deeper than simple rule enforcement. She wants control, she wants obedience, and she sees their calm, confident presence as a challenge. Each new false complaint strengthens her belief that she can push them out if she just keeps applying pressure. What Karen doesn't realize is that the family has recently installed a smart doorbell camera for safety, one that will soon expose her entire campaign of lies. Karen's harassment grows more aggressive as she escalates from petty HOA warnings to formal accusations, filing multiple false complaints that paint the family as disruptive and uncooperative. She crafts each complaint with exaggerated language to make it appear serious, claiming the family refuses to follow community guidelines, even though they haven't violated a single rule. She writes that their children are constantly screaming and disturbing the peace, despite the fact that most neighbors have barely seen the kids outside. She reports their car as abandoned because it sat in the driveway for 2 days while they organized the garage. She even claims their porch light is too bright, grasping for anything that could be turned into an issue. As the stack of false complaints grows, Karen calls an emergency HOA board meeting without the family's knowledge, presenting her fabricated list of violations with the confidence of someone who has done this many times before. The board members listen, some nodding out of habit, others uneasy because they know Karen has a history of exaggeration. Still, Karen's stern tone and manipulative phrasing make the situation sound urgent. Determined to strengthen her case, she escalates further and calls the police one afternoon, claiming the father threatened her while she was politely addressing community concerns. The father had only waved at her while leaving for work, but Karen describes the interaction as if she narrowly escaped danger. When officers arrive, the family is shocked, confused as they try to understand why Karen is accusing them of something so serious. Karen puts on her most dramatic performance, acting shaken, clutching her chest, speaking in a trembling voice as she repeats her fabricated story. The officers, noticing the father's calm and respectful demeanor, sense inconsistencies in Karen's claims. But they still have to take the report. The family feels the weight of the situation shift from annoying harassment to potential danger. They realize the accusations are no longer just OA nonsense. Karen is now involving law enforcement, attempting to build a criminal narrative against them. Feeling cornered, the family becomes more cautious around her, documenting interactions and saving every HOA notice, quietly preparing for the possibility that they may need to prove their innocence. The escalation becomes more obvious to neighbors as well, who begin noticing Karen watching the family from her window or walking past their house repeatedly with her phone out, pretending to take evidence. Each fabricated claim she makes fuels her belief that she can push the family out. In her mind, she's untouchable, protected by her position, her influence, and her confidence that no one will question her authority. What she fails to realize is that her behavior is becoming more unstable, more extreme, and more obvious, and the family's new doorbell camera is capturing every move she makes. Karen has no idea the family recently installed a modern doorbell camera with wide-angle recording, night vision, motion alerts, and cloud backup. Every time she walks up to their porch pretending to check something, rehearsing lines under her breath, recording fake evidence on her phone, the camera captures every second. When she leaves early morning notes claiming noise violations, the camera catches her placing them quietly while looking around to ensure no one is watching. One afternoon, she walks up to the family's door to leave a warning about excessive foot traffic, claiming the family has too many visitors. Unaware she's being recorded, she films the empty street to fabricate her narrative, saying loudly, "This is unacceptable," as if speaking to someone misbehaving, even though the porch is empty. On another day, she spies on the father arriving home and quietly follows him, standing behind bushes and snapping photos meant to look incriminating. The camera catches her crouching down, hiding, and trying to angle her phone to capture something that isn't there. The more Karen escalates her behavior, the more the camera records material that contradicts her actions and statements. At night, she walks onto their property, placing trash bags on their lawn, positioning them carefully to look like deliberate negligence. She even steps back to check the angle, repositioning the trash until she's satisfied. The camera's infrared mode records her in perfect clarity, revealing not only what she's doing, but also her deliberate planning. She whispers to herself, rehearsing the complaint she plans to file the next morning, thinking no one can hear her. Sometimes she even takes pictures of the trash she planted, making sure to capture the lawn in poor lighting to make it look worse for the board. She scribbles notes, snaps more photos, then walks away with a satisfied grin, thinking she has built an airtight case. Meanwhile, the family starts discovering Karen's tricks when reviewing the camera footage for unrelated reasons. One night, the motion alert wakes the father, who checks his phone expecting to see a stray cat or delivery driver, but instead sees Karen sneaking onto their lawn at 2 a.m. As he scrolls through past recordings, he uncovers multiple instances of Karen planting scenes, lying to the camera, inventing stories, and acting out false reactions. Each clip is time-stamped, stored in the cloud, and tied directly to her actions. The family begins compiling a playlist of evidence, labeling each video clearly, knowing they might need it soon. The doorbell camera has become their silent witness, watching every attempt Karen makes to twist reality into her own fabricated narrative. Karen, still convinced she's in full control, continues her harassment campaign without understanding that with every step she takes toward the family's property, she is building the very evidence that will expose her. Karen's behavior becomes more brazen as her obsession with removing the family intensifies. Convinced she is cleverly outsmarting them, she begins staging bigger violations to strengthen the fake case she plans to present to the HOA board. Late at night, when most neighbors are asleep, Karen walks across the street carrying small trash bags, old newspapers, and bits of debris she collects from her own yard. She wears dark clothing, believing this makes her invisible, and moves quickly but cautiously, glancing left and right to make sure no one is watching. She approaches the family's lawn and kneels down, placing trash in strategic spots where it will appear messy and deliberate. She arranges the garbage with an odd level of dedication, spreading out paper to make it look like wind blew it around, placing a soda can near the porch, and even sprinkling dried leaves across the walkway. She checks the lawn again, adjusting pieces like she's creating a crime scene, fully unaware that the family's doorbell camera has been silently recording her since the moment she stepped onto their property. The infrared night vision mode captures her face clearly, highlighting every calculated movement. Karen then takes multiple photos from different angles, ensuring she has enough material to claim the family has been repeatedly ignoring HOA cleanliness guidelines. She mutters to herself as she snaps the pictures, saying things like, "This'll finally get them fined," or "Let's see how they explain this." She smiles to herself, reviewing the fake evidence she just created. She believes this will be the turning point, the moment the HOA board finally agrees to issue a heavy penalty, pushing the family closer to eviction. After staging the scene, she walks away briskly, hugging the shadows and staying close to fences, as if performing a covert mission. The next morning, the family wakes up to find the trash scattered across their lawn. Confused, they wonder if an animal ripped open their garbage cans, but everything seems too neatly arranged to be random. Before they can clean it up, Karen arrives, pretending to be shocked. She stands on the sidewalk with her phone out, snapping photos dramatically while shaking her head. She doesn't greet the family. Instead, she sighs loudly and says, "This is exactly why we have rules," hoping they'll hear and feel ashamed. When the father steps outside to investigate, she immediately walks toward him with a stern look and says, "This cannot continue. I'll have to file another urgent violation report." The father tries to explain. They didn't put the trash there, but Karen cuts him off, raising her hand dismissively and saying, "The evidence is right here." She pretends to act concerned for the community, insisting dozens of neighbors have complained, which is untrue. The family feels frustrated but chooses not to argue. Instead, they calmly pick up the trash and go back inside. They know they haven't done anything wrong, but they don't yet realize the full extent of Karen's scheming. Later that day, Karen sends a lengthy report to the HOA board, attaching multiple photos and claiming the family is repeatedly violating cleanliness rules. She exaggerates wildly, writing that the family leaves trash out every night, that the yard emits unpleasant odors, which it doesn't, and that the children play unsafely, adding irrelevant complaints to make her report sound more serious. She ends the message by stating she is deeply concerned about the direction of the community if such behavior continues. Several board members, tired of Karen's constant over-reporting, respond with polite but short messages, saying they will review the matter. Karen interprets this as support, believing her strategy is working. Meanwhile, the father decides to check the doorbell camera after remembering strange motion alerts from the night before. As he scrolls through the timeline, his eyes widen when he sees Karen creeping onto their lawn at 2 a.m. He rewinds and plays the footage again, watching her carefully place each piece of trash, take photos, and run off. He calls his wife over, and together they watch the recordings in disbelief. They feel a mixture of shock, relief, and anger. Shock at Karen's audacity, relief that they now have solid proof, and anger at the harassment they've been enduring. They save the footage to their phones, label it with timestamps, and upload it to cloud storage for extra safety. What Karen thought would be her winning move has instead become a digital confession, captured from multiple angles with perfect clarity. And she has no idea that the very act she thought would get the family punished is the key to her own downfall. Karen doesn't stop at staging trash and fake violations. She continues manufacturing evidence in increasingly reckless ways, all while completely unaware that the family's camera system is recording her from different angles. When the HOA board seems slow to react to her previous complaints, she decides to push harder by gathering proof that the family is intentionally ignoring community rules. In her mind, the best way to do this is to catch them off guard with unannounced inspections she has no authority to conduct, but carries out anyway under the guise of HOA responsibility. She approaches their home repeatedly, walking onto their porch and pretending to take note of violations, tapping on the walls, bending down to inspect the porch railing, and filming random parts of the yard. Each time she comes close, the doorbell camera activates, capturing her grumbling comments, rehearsed lines, and frustrated sighs when she can't find anything legitimately wrong. Unable to find real problems, she begins creating new ones. One afternoon, she waits until the family leaves for work. Then she walks up to the porch holding a small container of dirt mixed with leaves. She sprinkles the mixture on the steps to make it seem like the family isn't maintaining their entryway. After spreading it around with her foot, she steps back and takes photos, making the porch appear messy. She even records a short video where she narrates loudly, pretending to document her findings. It's gotten worse every week. They refuse to keep their property clean. She sends this to the HOA board, insisting urgent action is required. To further strengthen her fabricated narrative, Karen files another complaint, this time claiming the family is responsible for unregistered pets roaming the neighborhood. She attaches a blurry photo of a stray cat she saw earlier, insisting it belongs to them. She even tells the board she heard animal noises coming from their backyard, though she never actually did. Her reports grow so dramatic and embellished that some board members start questioning her reliability, but Karen insists she's protecting the neighborhood. Her most dangerous escalation happens when she again involves the police. One day, after watching the father clean up his yard quietly, she calls the non-emergency line and claims he became aggressive toward her while she was taking community photos, which never happened. She performs her dramatic voice again, breathing heavily and saying she felt unsafe. When the police arrive, the father is once more confused, but instead of panicking, he calmly invites the officers to view the doorbell footage. Karen, standing nearby, looks confident at first, expecting the father to deny everything without proof. But when the officers gather around the phone and watch the recorded clips, their expressions change. They see Karen sneaking onto the porch, planting dirt, staging scenes, and lying directly into the camera. They exchange glances, instantly recognizing that the issue is not the family, it's Karen. The officers ask Karen to explain why she was on the family's property multiple times at night. Karen stammers, trying to twist her narrative, saying she was monitoring violations, but the footage shows her staging them. They ask if she has permission from the HOA to conduct inspections. She hesitates, knowing the answer is no. Her confidence begins to crack as she realizes she has been caught in her own web. But the most humiliating moment for Karen is when the family shows footage from a second camera angle, this time from their garage security system, which captured her staging the trash scene from across the yard. The officer replays it slowly, watching her kneel down, place trash, and take photos. The officer then asks her why she reported this as the family's fault. Karen's voice trembles as she tries to come up with an excuse, but nothing she says makes sense compared to the clear footage. The officers warn her that filing false reports is a serious offense. Karen, who once felt untouchable in her position of HOA authority, now feels the ground crumble beneath her. She watches the family calmly save multiple clips, label them, and offer them to the officers for official documentation. The truth is no longer something she can bury under staged evidence. Every action she took, every lie she told, every fake violation she created has been recorded and safely stored. The officers tell her that the HOA will be notified and an internal investigation will follow. Karen walks away shaken, humiliated, and terrified of what will happen next, still unaware that this is only the beginning of her downfall. As more incidents unfold, the neighborhood itself becomes an unexpected witness. Several houses on the street have their own doorbell and driveway cameras, each quietly recording daily activity without anyone thinking much of it. But when Karen's harassment escalates, these cameras unintentionally capture pieces of the truth she had been trying so hard to hide. One neighbor's doorbell camera records her walking across the street late at night carrying trash bags, clearly heading toward the family's yard. Another home's driveway camera catches her crouching behind a bush, watching the family, zooming in on them with her phone as if building a fake case. Yet another neighbor's camera picks up audio of Karen loudly rehearsing false accusations before calling the police, practicing her tone and pretending to sound frightened. Some neighbors had already felt uneasy about Karen's controlling behavior, but now they begin noticing how often she lingers in front of the family's home, pacing back and forth, taking pictures, recording videos, and talking to herself as she creates imaginary violations. When the police come again and the family starts explaining what's been happening, neighbors remember their footage and quietly review their own cameras. They realize they have accidentally recorded multiple moments of Karen stalking, staging, and lying. Shocked by what they discover, a few of them approach the family discreetly, offering copies of their recordings, wanting to help after seeing how unfairly the family has been treated. These combined angles, doorbell cams, driveway cams, sidewalk footage, begin to form a multi-camera timeline of Karen's behavior, revealing not isolated misunderstandings, but a pattern of deliberate harassment. Karen's confidence collapses the moment she realizes the family isn't relying on words alone. They have multiple recordings backing every claim. When the officers mention reviewing additional footage from neighbors, Karen's face drains of color. She tries to maintain her composure, insisting the family is manipulating everyone, but her voice shakes and even her body language betrays fear. She demands to see the videos, hoping to spot a flaw or angle she can argue against. Yet every clip shown to her contradicts the story she crafted. She watches herself walking onto the family's property at night, scattering trash, staging scenes, pretending to be shocked the next morning. She sees herself yelling accusations at an empty porch, fabricating violations and calling the police with dramatic lies. The officers begin questioning her inconsistencies, asking why she claimed she was threatened when the footage shows her calmly taking photos and provoking the family. Karen tries to dismiss the cameras as misleading, but the recordings are too clear, too numerous, too consistent to deny. Even the neighbors watching from a distance now see her unraveling, her once commanding presence shrinking into visible panic. She knows that the HOA board will soon receive everything, the family's evidence, the police report, the neighbors' recordings, and that her reputation, authority, and control are slipping away with every moment the cameras expose. As the officers gather all the information, the situation begins shifting completely away from Karen's control. Backup officers arrive, expecting to address a disturbance, but instead find a calm family, showing them organized video files, timestamps, and multiple camera angles of Karen's actions. The officers compare Karen's dramatic claims with the footage showing her planting trash, sneaking onto the property, rehearsing lies, and provoking the family. Neighbors slowly gather, curious about the patrol cars, and a few quietly confirm that they've also noticed Karen's strange behavior for weeks. The backup officers exchange glances, their expressions changing from uncertainty to understanding as the truth becomes undeniable. The father hands over the footage, and one officer radios his supervisor to report possible misconduct by the HOA president, marking the moment everything begins turning against Karen. Karen attempts to defend herself as the officers confront her with the evidence. She stammers, claiming the videos are taken out of context, but every clip contradicts her explanations. Her once confident posture collapses as officers question why she filed repeated false reports and trespassed on private property at night. She grasps for excuses, blaming lighting, angles, neighbors, even the family. But nothing aligns with what the cameras capture. The more she talks, the more obvious her lies become. The officers tell her they will be forwarding the evidence to the HOA board and possibly opening a case for harassment and false reporting. Karen realizes her narrative is slipping beyond repair, and the power she believes she held is dissolving with every frame of footage played back before her. As the situation unfolds further, the responding officers decide it is necessary to move everything into a formal internal review. They request that the family provide full access to the recorded footage, including timestamps, original files, and any secondary camera angles available. The father cooperates without hesitation, opening his phone and showing the officers exactly where the recordings are stored. The clarity of the videos, the consistency of the timeline, and the sheer number of captured incidents convince the officers that this is more than a simple misunderstanding. It is a pattern of targeted harassment carried out by someone abusing her position in the community. One officer, noting the seriousness of Karen's repeated complaints and the falsified nature of her reports, radios in for a supervising sergeant. Meanwhile, the family stands quietly, exhausted by the emotional weight of the situation, but relieved that the truth is finally emerging in a way no one can dispute. When the supervisor arrives, he takes the situation very seriously. He carefully reviews the recordings, pausing multiple times to enlarge details and verify dates, angles, and distances. The footage shows Karen stepping onto the family's porch without permission, planting trash in the yard, faking shock the next morning, staging photos, rehearsing her accusations, lingering outside the home for no legitimate reason, and even provoking interactions to later report them to authorities. The sergeant nods slowly, recognizing the severity of Karen's actions and the potential legal implications. He pulls Karen aside to question her separately, asking her to explain why she filed multiple police reports that contradicted the surveillance footage. Karen attempts to maintain her usual authority, but the supervisor's tone is firm, and her excuses begin unraveling quickly. She tries to claim she was checking things as part of HOA duties, but the sergeant points out she trespassed at night and staged false evidence. Her explanations become increasingly desperate, shifting blame to the family, the board, the neighbors, even suggesting the videos might be edited. But the sergeant calmly informs her that tampering accusations are taken extremely seriously and require proof, which she does not have. Meanwhile, the officers ask the family if they feel safe remaining in the neighborhood during the investigation. The father admits they have felt targeted and uncomfortable for weeks, but were unsure how to address the situation before the cameras revealed everything. The supervisor assures them that their cooperation is appreciated and that the recordings will be forwarded to both internal investigators and the HOA board for immediate review. He provides them with case numbers, instructions on how to submit digital evidence formally, and information about their rights regarding harassment and false reporting. The family thanks the officers, grateful for the professionalism after so many stressful encounters instigated by Karen. Neighbors who witnessed the police activity and recognized Karen's voice during her dramatic performance gradually approached the family to offer support. Some apologize for not noticing sooner, while others express relief that someone finally documented behavior they had personally experienced in smaller ways. Several neighbors share their own footage, which the father collects carefully, labeling each file to match the timeline. The combined evidence forms a powerful, undeniable record of Karen's harassment campaign. When the HOA board is notified, they schedule an emergency meeting to address the situation. Board members who previously dismissed Karen's exaggerations now feel embarrassed and disturbed as they review the collected evidence. The videos make it impossible to ignore the truth. Karen had used her position to bully, manipulate, and fabricate violations for her own personal agenda. The board begins drafting formal notices regarding her misconduct, and discussions start about removing her from leadership, issuing fines, and reporting her behavior to appropriate legal authorities. Karen, sensing that her title and influence are slipping away, sits in her home anxiously, replaying the officer's words in her mind, realizing that the consequences she once weaponized against others may now come for her. For the first time since moving into the neighborhood, the family feels a sense of relief and validation. The tension that had been building in their chest for weeks begins to ease as they watch the entire community and the authorities shift their attention toward the real source of trouble. Their cameras, once installed simply to improve home security, have become essential safeguards against lies and manipulation. They prepare the final files to submit for the investigation, knowing that the truth is fully supported, documented, and backed by witnesses. They go to sleep that night with a feeling that the worst may finally be behind them, unaware that the events set into motion will continue reshaping the neighborhood and exposing deeper issues Karen hid behind her position of authority. As the investigation progresses, the family receives official confirmation that all accusations against them have been dismissed. The police inform them that Karen's reports were deemed unfounded, and the officers reviewing the case express gratitude for the clear and organized evidence the family provided. This marks the beginning of a significant shift in the community's atmosphere. Where once there was tension and uncertainty, now there is a growing sense of unity as neighbors openly voice their support for the family. In the days following the incident, residents who were previously silent due to fear of HOA retaliation start sharing their own experiences with Karen's controlling behavior. Some admit they received minor warnings for violations they never committed, while others reveal they were discouraged from questioning HOA decisions because Karen made them feel intimidated. The neighborhood begins acknowledging that her authority had gone unchecked for too long. The HOA board, armed with the evidence and shaken by Karen's actions, formally removes her from her position. A public notice is sent to all residents explaining that a leadership change has taken place to ensure fairness and safety in the community. The board also introduces new guidelines requiring transparent documentation for any reported violation and prohibiting board members from personally confronting residents without authorization. These changes are a direct response to Karen's abuse of power, and many residents express relief that the HOA will now operate with clearer boundaries and accountability. Karen herself becomes noticeably withdrawn during this period. The confident posture she once carried around the neighborhood disappears. She avoids eye contact, stops her daily inspection walks, and no longer stands outside monitoring residents. Some neighbors attempt to speak to her out of politeness, but she quickly turns away, feeling the weight of embarrassment and the burden of facing a community that now knows the truth. She spends most of her time indoors, avoiding public interactions, and anxiously waiting for updates on the investigation she can no longer manipulate. The silence that surrounds her home is no longer peaceful. It is the echo of consequences she never imagined would apply to her. The family, meanwhile, becomes a symbol of resilience within the neighborhood. Neighbors compliment their patience and composure, praising them for handling the situation with dignity instead of confrontation. Parents walking by with their children smile and wave, the same people who once observed the tension from a distance now offering genuine warmth. A few residents even bring small gifts, cookies, flowers, welcome cards, to show support and make the family feel truly accepted. The father, who once felt guarded every time he stepped outside, now greets the community with a renewed sense of belonging. The family attends an HOA community meeting where members openly thank them for exposing a problem that had quietly affected others for years. During the meeting, residents discuss ways to improve communication, reduce unnecessary conflict, and prevent anyone from misusing authority again. The board expresses its appreciation for the video evidence that brought clarity to the situation, acknowledging that without the cameras, Karen's lies might have continued harming innocent families. As weeks pass, the tension fades, replaced by a stronger, more connected community spirit. The family enjoys peaceful days in their new home, free from Karen's interference. Their children play outside without fear of complaints or false accusations. The father installs additional cameras, not out of fear, but out of gratitude for the protection they provided. He understands now more than ever that technology can play a powerful role in ensuring fairness and accountability. Karen's consequences do not end with her removal from the HOA. The board files a formal complaint regarding her misuse of power, and the police place a note in her record documenting her false reports. Though she is not arrested, the incident becomes a permanent reminder that authority does not grant the right to abuse others. Karen's reputation in the neighborhood is permanently changed, and she becomes a quiet figure whose actions serve as a cautionary example of what happens when lies collide with undeniable truth. The family, now fully welcomed by the neighborhood, stands as proof that staying calm, gathering evidence, and letting the truth speak can dismantle even the strongest facade of manipulation. Neighbors often remark that the moment the doorbell camera captured Karen scattering trash was the moment the entire narrative shifted. It was the turning point that transformed fear into empowerment, confusion into clarity, and division into unity. The family, once targeted unfairly, becomes a respected part of the neighborhood, and their story becomes one residents quietly share with anyone who wonders why the HOA is now far more balanced, careful, and transparent than it ever was under Karen's rule. If this story opened your eyes, if it made you angry, shocked, or simply thankful that cameras don't lie, then don't leave just yet. Your support is what keeps stories like this alive. Hit that like button so YouTube knows this truth matters. Subscribe if you want to see more real cases where everyday people fight back. And tap the bell icon so you never miss the next moment where justice speaks louder than lies. And I want to hear your voice. What part of this story hit you the hardest? What would you have done in this family's place? Drop your thoughts in the comments. The best replies get pinned, and your ideas help shape the next episode. Before you go, there's another story waiting for you right now, one with an even crazier twist, more shocking evidence, and another Karen who underestimated the power of the truth. Click on the video on your screen and I'll meet you there.